morning, everyone. Sorry I'm late. I thought I was supposed to go on in about 20 minutes, so my bad. Yo hablo español es muy mal. So I'm going to speak in English the whole time because I don't know, and I don't want to butcher this beautiful language. And I've just got to take a little rocket fuel so I can talk fast. I'm extremely excited to be here. I love Mexico. I love the people. I love the food. I love the culture. My girlfriend and I love to visit Mexico, but I have never, ever been in Mexico City before. And I got to tell you, wow, is this a big city. Mexico City is 3 times the size of Los Angeles, and LA is a big city. So I'm very, very excited to be here. Very quickly, so you know that I actually know a little bit about what I'm talking about. I grew up doing investigations and security and executive protection pretty much my whole life. My dad started our company in 1967 after being in the military and then law enforcement in the United States. In 97, my father passed away very suddenly, and I took over the business with very little business training or education. So the last 25 years, I have spent my life becoming a better businessman. In 2014, I created the Alive Active Shooter Survival Training Program that is now taught all over the world. And in 2017, my book was published, and it's based on this program. 2018, I created an online learning program because I couldn't reach everybody through my book or in-person training. And then in 2019, I created an instructor certification course. So now I've got over 130 instructors from Mexico to Canada to Australia that teach the program. But this is not about my program. This is about active shooter. So we're going to talk about that. This is just some of the certifications and stuff. I have 3 companies: National Business Investigations, MPS Security and Protection, and the Alive Active Shooter Program. We do corporate investigations and corporate security executive protection all over the world. And then, of course, the Alive program is specifically for teaching active shooter. And I'm not going to talk about my program, but so you have context. The Alive is an acronym. It stands for Assess, Leave, Impede, Violence, and Expose. Anybody heard of Run, Hide, Fight? Yeah, Run, Hide, Fight. About 25-year-old active shooter program, the first one created by the United States government. And the first version of anything is never perfect. So I took that and I recreated it and made it better. Okay, now this might sound like a stupid question. Is there anybody here that does not know what an active shooter is? It's okay if you don't. Up until 5 years ago or so, I would ask that question in my in-person training, and there would always be, people say, yeah, I don't know what an active shooter is. Well, now, because of the world we live in, I think everybody knows what an active shooter is. Now, the United States government defines active shooter as an individual actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined and populated area. I have a different definition because I believe that it's more, there's the psychological profile of a stereotypical active killer, active shooter is very, very specific. My definition is an individual actively engaged in trying to kill as many people possible in a short amount of time as possible, because the only thing they care about is taking lives and spreading fear. Now, I use the term active shooter, active killer, ASIS, which I'm a part of the Executive Protection Council, and I'm on a few committees. They like to use the term active assailant and active threat. I use those terms interchangeably. And an active killer, active shooter, it doesn't have to be guns. Why is an active killer not necessarily an active shooter? Because they used edge weapons, they used fire, they used explosives. Maybe they used a baseball bat. And all over the world, it's different things. But anybody that's trying to kill as many people possible in a short amount of time as possible can be an active shooter, active killer, active assailant. Now, most people here are from Mexico. Is that accurate? Okay. There's a handful of people I know from the United States and other South American countries. Active shooter is not necessarily the phenomenon here that it is in the United States. Can we agree on that? Okay. You don't have, on a weekly basis, somebody going into a school or going into a mall or going into a church or going to a entertainment venue and start shooting and killing and stabbing and whatever. That doesn't happen as much here. But you do have a tremendous amount of gun violence and violence. And the ALIVE program and any kind of program that you learn or know how to survive violence, this type of violence, it can be used for this type, for an active shooter or other kinds of violence. However, you do have them. And in Monterey, 5-6 years ago, this is what happened. Now you'll see, I'm gonna show it on the big screen, but I want you to take notice here. If everybody can see, in the upper left-hand corner, there's a kid sitting at his desk right here, okay? And there's just all kinds of stuff going around in this classroom. The teacher's here, she's walking around. But this kid is sitting at his desk, he pulls out a gun, he shoots another kid, the teacher stands up, shoots 2 more kids, and then he keeps trying to shoot, but he runs out of ammunition, and then he tries to kill himself, but he doesn't have any more ammunition. So he goes to his desk, he reloads his gun, and he kills himself. This happened. This is the stereotypical active shooter in a school. We see this in America, in the United States, unfortunately, all too frequently. He'll lean forward, shoot this kid first, then the teacher when she's standing over here. Right? Now. Everyone's in shock. Everyone's laying down, sitting down. He's trying to commit suicide, which is what they usually do. Reloads his gun. Puts it in his mouth. And now they decide to leave. Now, let me point out one of the biggest problems with how we are programmed or how we learned to act in a situation like this and how we fail to do what's best for us. Those children immediately got down on the ground. Could he have walked up and executed every single one of those kids if he had enough ammunition? Yes. These kids were never taught, and most people were never taught to take action. Freeze. You've got to do something. Move forward. Even if move forward means turning around and moving backwards, you've got to do something in this situation. If every one of those children had stood up and started rushing that kid or just rushing out the door, they would have survived even if he did have more ammunition. He might have started trying to shoot randomly, but if they're in a ball, he can walk up and execute them right in the head, okay, every single one of them. That is the biggest problem that we as human beings have faced because we haven't learned that you have got to do something because the 3 F's, the reactions to violence and fear are what? Fight, flight, and freeze. We cannot freeze in the face of this type of violence. We have got to take action. You, your spouses, your children, and everybody you know, they have got to learn that in this type of situation, you have got to take action because freezing, being paralyzed by fear, will get you killed. Okay, now, sure, you don't have active shooter, active killer, active assailant, active assailants here as frequently as the United States, but you have active threats every day. There's gun violence, there's narco, gangs, all kinds of violence that happens. And even if you are not the direct target of a predator or somebody that's trying to kill people, maybe there's a shootout between 2 rival gangs. You might get in the middle of it. You still have got to know how to react. Because if you do nothing or you do the wrong thing, you can still get killed even if you were not the intended target. Now, we see this over and over and over in Mexico. Okay, even in schools. It's happening in schools here, guys and gals. And this was 3 days ago. Now, I don't know what happened. Somebody got upset with somebody and walked in, and it was not a stereotypical active shooter event. He wasn't just going, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you. He probably went in, or maybe it was gang-related, and they had an intended target, and there was other people that happened to be there. Either way, you've got to know how to react in these situations. Now, in the United States, I'm sure everybody knows about the Las Vegas massacre in 2017, yeah? This was the worst one in American history. There's no sound? That's unfortunate. In this video, and I don't know why this sound's not working on this system, but in this video, you can hear the repetitive shots being fired from a semi-automatic weapon. Now, he had a bump stock on. If you know what a bump stock is, every time it fires, it literally reloads from the recoil. So it's almost an automatic weapon, but not quite. And it was pop, 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 over and over and over again. And what I wanted to show you, but we can't hear it, is right here, there's 3 women. You can hear their voices, whoever's recording it. There's 3 women. One woman is completely hysterical, losing her mind, freaking out, right? Acting emotionally, reacting emotionally, not reacting rationally. There's a second girl trying to lock it down, trying to be calm, trying to say, no, it's okay, it's all right, no, it's fine, we're gonna be all right. And then there's a third girl that says, it's okay, guys, we're gonna be okay. That is how we and your loved ones have got to react to this type of violence. It has got to be rational, not emotional. Who here has ever been in a little fight with their spouse? Oh, come on, guys. I'm calling BS on you. Thank you. Yes, this guy's going right here. This morning, in fact. Okay? When you're in a fight, a verbal altercation with your spouse, and your spouse says something, and you know they said it to get you, right? They pushed your button. You've got 2 options. You can come unglued and scream and yell and go off on them and blah, 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 and yell, right? That's an emotional reaction. Or you can stop and take a deep breath and focus and say, now look, I understand why you're upset. And yes, what I did probably hurt you, and I apologize for that. Now, what's the trajectory of that conversation? Is it going to escalate or de-escalate? Right? You're going to make it better. If you react emotionally in this situation, you're going to make things worse because you're not using this, you're using this. All right. Now, this is not a Mexico problem. It's not a United States problem. It is a worldwide dilemma. Everywhere it's happening. United States, Canada. Everybody's so nice in Canada. Who shoots people in Canada? China, Russia. By the way, there are more people killed with edged weapons in London than there are people killed with firearms in New York City, okay? It's not a gun problem. Guns make it easier, but if they don't have guns, like in the Orient and like in Australia, they use other weapons, but people are being killed in mass quantities. And this is what happened in New Zealand 3 years ago. You might remember this. I hope. No sound again. All right, wait. A little bit. Can you turn the sound up? Well, you can kind of barely hear the sound over here for some reason. This guy walked into a mosque and just unloaded. Now, do you see the people cowering in the corner right there? What happened was they heard the shooting. It was about time to pray, so they're all getting ready to pray. They heard the shooting. They all ran into a corner and laid face down. In what universe is that survival? It's basically saying, okay, I'm ready to meet my God today. Face down in the corner. You can't survive a situation like that. Had anybody run up to where he came down the hallway and jumped on the guy, okay, everybody else would have lived. So this is a problem. Okay, now we're going to get into the reason I'm here, the profile. Where are they occurring? Everywhere. Schools, churches, government buildings, outdoor entertainment venues, businesses is the biggest part. And the bad news, guys, is it's getting worse. 2021, in the United States, 2021 saw a 52% increase in active killers over 2020. And 2022 is supposed to be even worse. So this may not be a phenomenon in your country yet, but it's just a matter of time. That is my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. Now, the active shooter profile, how did they get here? Well, first of all, the biggest thing missing with these people is coping skills, okay? Coping skills are, there's pressure, there's things happening, there's stress, people that I love die, or bad things happen, or I lose all my money, or whatever. Now, you can take that stimulus, you can take those things, and you can process them in a healthy or an unhealthy way. A healthy way would be going to the gym and working out, playing racquetball, I don't know, a million different kinds of things to get that stuff out. And then there's people that internalize it, okay? And it festers, and it's like a pressure cooker, and it gets worse and worse and worse, and then finally they explode. And these people choose to explode in a way that hurts other people. Some people just kill themselves, which is also still very unfortunate. Many of these active killers start with fantasies of suicide, but then decide they want to commit homicide and take a bunch of people out with them when they go. Marginalization. They were bullied, humiliated, belittled, demoted, rejected, abandoned, slighted or wronged, condescended against. They suffer when it comes to the mental, depression, anxiety, psychosis, paranoid schizophrenia, feelings of not belonging, needing to believe in something. Now we're talking about people that are get into the idealistic thing where they believe in a God or a cause or a race that, and if you're not worship my God or like my cause or of my race, then you're bad and you got to die. Needing belief in something, disenfranchised, yearning for inclusion, and an idealistic conditioning. So this is very interesting. So the mindset, there's the mindset. I'm going to ask some questions, and I brought some of my books. I'll happily give out books if anybody's got the right answers. And I've said it twice already. Does anybody know what the short-term goal of an active shooter is? Sorry? Killing. It is definitely about control. That's the end result. But the short-term goal, when they go somewhere, what are they going to try and accomplish? To kill as many people possible in a short amount of time as possible. Okay? Now, we need to understand their playbook. Anybody here ever an athlete? Did you play on any kind of sport, team sport? Come on, guys. Surely some of you were in sports, right? Okay, thank you. Now, if you went up to the line or the basket or the net or wherever you were going to meet your opponent, if you knew their playbook, if you knew what play they were going to run, where their people were going to go and what they were going to do, wouldn't you be in a really good position to counter what they're going to do? You bet. If you know their next move, imagine playing chess and knowing what your opponent's next moves are. That's why it's important to understand the psychological profile of the active killer. The goal of an active killer, and this is what separates them from just any mass killer that decides to do something like that. It's very specific. They want to kill as many people possible in a short amount of time as possible, because for whatever reason it's going to fill that empty void in their dark soul or whatever. Now, we already talked about this a little bit. What does an active killer not fear? Dying, death, exactly. Death. They don't fear death. Oftentimes they've already fantasized their own death by suicide, and more than 50% do kill themselves afterwards, okay? Including the kid obviously on the screen. They don't fear death. So if they're going to go to all this trouble to do all this horrible, heinous, unbelievably tragic, awful stuff to somehow make them feel better about themselves, what's the worst thing that could happen? What do they fear? Can't hear anybody. Okay, social judgment. What's the thing that can happen? If you're going to go to all the trouble to do this, imagine you're even going to kill yourself at the end, but you're stopped. So what's the worst thing that could happen? Failure. The worst thing that can happen is that they're stopped. And it is about power and control, okay? They don't want to be shot and killed by someone else because they lose that power and control. They don't want to be captured and put in jail because they lose that power and control. The only way they maintain power and control in the mortal life and the afterlife in their mind is by taking their own life, because they went out on their own terms, and their videos they made or their manifestos that they left, and the news media is going to talk about them for the next however many years, right? That is the satisfaction and gratification they get. There's three primary motives why they do this: anger and revenge, personality or emotional disorder, and ideological. Now, anger and revenge, a lot of the high school kids that do this, they're upset because they were bullied, they were beat up, they were marginalized, they were humiliated. They like some girl that, laughed in their face, something like that. The guy that goes to the school where his wife works and shoots her and another teacher and two kids because she's divorcing him and trying to get full custody of the children, taking his kids away. He's angry and he wants revenge. The other one that we've seen, like Virginia Tech, Cho Sung-wi, that is mental illness. Now, the FBI and Secret Service did they went and tested all these, looked at all the research, and they found that only about 25% could be considered mentally ill. Now, can you imagine would you think any sane person would do something so heinously terrible? Do you know anybody you think might do something like this? But there's personality disorders and emotional disorders, and these kids have, these complexes of inferiority, and that's why they do it. And then ideological, racism, homophobia. You don't believe in my God, so you're bad, and I'm going to kill you. That type of thing. That's ideological. Those are the three primary motives. Here's the good news: this type of violence is a process, sometimes a years-long process. Nicholas Cruz down in Marjorie Stoneman High School in Florida, he had been posting for over a year online essays he was writing in school. There was glaring red flags that everybody should have seen, but nobody knew what to look for, and then nobody did anything once they saw. The two kids at Columbine High School, if you know about Columbine High School, for 2 years they were posting videos. They were posting online when the internet was brand new, and they had these chat rooms. They were in chat rooms talking about what they were doing. They told students. One of the students bought a gun and gave it to them. People knew. Why I say this is good news is this can be a long process. If you know what to look for, if you know what the warning signs are, and then you do something about it, you can stop this from happening. In San Bernardino, a man and wife, they were ISIS related, they said ISIS, they went and shot 14 people at a government building. And the FBI went and spoke to their neighbors later and said, did you happen to see any weird warning signs or any behavior that you thought was odd or that might give rise to this type of thing? And they said, yeah, we saw this and we saw that, and we were really freaked out by that. And the FBI said, why in the hell didn't you tell somebody? And they said, well, we didn't want anyone to think we were racist, because they were Middle Eastern and they were Muslim. So because of political correctness, 14 people died. You've got to know what to see. When you see it, you got to say something about it. Here's some warning signs, everybody. Aggressive or threatening behavior, increasing belligerence, bizarre or irrational behavior, emotional outbursts, sudden extreme behavior changes, hypersensitivity to criticism, comments or threats related to suicide or homicide, obsession with a supervisor, coworker, or a grievance, and then ominous specific threats towards that person. Writings or posting on social media about violence. These kids do it all the time. Hopelessness, despair, isolation, or loneliness. A sudden stockpiling of weapons. I've got a bunch of guns at home, okay? But I've had guns my whole life. If somebody like in Uvalde, remember in Uvalde 3 months ago, that horrific event in Uvalde, Texas at Robb Elementary School? The guy turns 18 years old, never owned a gun in his life. He turned 18 years old, he bought a gun. 2 days later, he bought another gun, okay? So a sudden stockpiling of weapons can be a warning sign. And then a fascination with prior mass killings. And any talk of suicide or homicide, okay? Now, one or two of these things, normal human behavior. But if you start seeing several of them compounding, it's like, whoa, something's going on here. So you want to talk to them if you're close enough, or you want to talk to somebody else that can interject. There's also contributing factors. Let's say somebody has all those other things, and they're on the edge, and they're like, you know what, if one more thing happens, I'm going to go crazy. Now, in the United States, has anybody here in Mexico, did you ever hear the term going postal? Going postal came about because some of the very first active shooter events was in a United States post office. One of the workers got sick of the way they were treated, didn't like their coworkers, and they showed up and shot a bunch of people. They call it going postal. So the contributing factors is retaliation at work, demotion, a decrease in pay or termination, feelings of marginalization at school, at work, or in a relationship. And then financial is always a big one. That can drive people over the edge. And relationships, divorce, breakup, and child custody. Now, how is that relevant to us as protectors? I've been a protector my whole life. I'm an ASIS member. I'm on the Executive Protection Council, so welcome all you ASIS members. It's important because we have principles, or if you're a corporate security director, you've got employees that need to be protected. It's your job to worry about their safety so they don't have to. It's your job to worry about your principal's safety if you're an EP agent so you don't have to. Well, we need to know situational awareness. What I call being proactively reactionary. Being proactive is before, being reactionary is after. Creating a plan for scenarios. Because when's the worst time to create a plan? When you need that plan. Create those plans prior so you have them and you know them. We've got to be empowered, and we've got to, again, react rationally rather than emotionally. It'll get us hurt. It'll get us in trouble. We'll do the wrong thing if we react rationally. All you EP agents and protectors out there, what skill is more important? Being able to fight your way out of danger, or being able to keep your principal away from it so you never have to fight your way out of danger? It's the latter, right? If we can keep our principals and our employees and the people that we're sworn and we're paid to protect away and out of danger, that is much more important than being able, because the odds of us actually being in that situation are much, much less, especially if we're good at keeping people out. That's why it's important to understand the profile of an active shooter. Now you're going to start seeing behavior in people and going, I don't remember that person being such a jerk. I wonder if they're going to be an active shooter. Probably not, okay? But it's a good idea to know what to look for, so if you do see that behavior, you can pay attention to it, and maybe you may actually stop an active shooter, active killer, or maybe you just save someone from killing themselves. Maybe they're on that road. Maybe they're in emotional crisis, and they're not predisposed to killing a whole bunch of people, but they might. And if we can stop that, how good would that be? The mindsets that I teach, that I want you as protectors to have, there's two of them. There's security and there's survival. Now, the definition of mindset is a fixed mental attitude or disposition that predetermines a person's responses to and interpretations of specific situations. So you have a way of thinking that you're going to react if this or this or this happens. You already know what your reaction is because of the mindset. We've got to have two mindsets. The security mindset, which you're practicing right now. Anytime you train, anytime you drill, whether it's, jiu-jitsu or shooting or evacuation drills or whatever, anytime you're learning, anytime you're avoiding or keeping your principal or someone out of harm's way, you're practicing a security mindset. That happens before the event. When the event begins, now you kick into survival mindset. Now everything you have learned during your security mindset, now you're going to put into practice. And that's when you have got to do whatever it takes to get you and your principal or your employees or whoever you're protecting off the X and to safety. Okay. I'm in good. So, situational awareness is part of a security mindset. It's something we need to use every day. It's prior to the event. Everybody here knows what situational awareness is, yeah? And that's kind of in our job description, right? We need to know that. If you're prior law enforcement, you really know it. If you're prior military, you probably know it. It needs to be a part of our daily life. I liken it to defensive driving. Now, in the United States, when I grew up, in high school, they would teach us defensive driving. Is that something here in Mexico? Are you familiar with the term defensive driving? Yes? Okay. Well, we are now, yes, sir. You know? Huh? Defensive driving. Excellent. I subscribe to the idea of practicing defensive living, and it's kind of sad that we have to do that, right? Wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have to worry about what's around every corner, what somebody's going to do? A guy walks into a diner in 100-degree weather in an overcoat and long, greasy hair and wild eyes. That person's probably a little unpredictable, right? Well, we have got to, like if you're coming up to an intersection and this person's coming as fast as you are and they've got a red light but they're not slowing down, you start slowing down just in case they blow the light. They don't hit you. In defensive living, we have got to practice looking at that guy because he looks a little out of place and being prepared to react if he does something or she does something that they're not supposed to do, okay? Same concept. It's being aware of those around us and being prepared to react in a way that we might have to save ourselves because this person's going to do something they're not supposed to do. Like in defensive driving, they're going to blow a red light. That's against the law, and they might kill us if we don't slow down. This person might do something they're not supposed to do with a knife or a gun or fire or a vehicle that might hurt us. So we've got to be prepared to react to that. And then proactive reactionism is a term that I created, creating a plan before you need it. It could be in this room right now. During my training, I do what's called the visualization exercise. And that is, I would take my audience and I'd say, okay, everybody, close your eyes, and I'm going to walk you through a journey. Now picture yourself at your desk or wherever you work or where you're in school, and then all of a sudden, pop, 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 there's shots fired, right? What are you going to do? And we're going to walk through the 5 steps of Alive. That is being proactively reactionary. That's creating your reaction to a scenario before you need it. Okay, but let's back up to the beginning. Now the shots aren't from over there. Now the shots are over there. New scenario. Same surroundings, new scenario. So you have got to create your reaction based on that scenario and that scenario. That is a very simple mental exercise that you can do, and your children and your spouses and people and your employees that they can do to create the plan in case they ever need it. Because when is the worst time to create a plan? When you need it. Imagine all of a sudden if somebody started shooting in here, we haven't thought about where are the exits? Where is a closet we can go into and shut the door so that we're safe? Nobody's thought about that because it's not part of our daily thinking, but it needs to be. We don't want to be consumed by it. We don't want to be paranoid, but we've got to be situationally aware and ready to react. I don't have time to show this. It's my favorite example of situational awareness. Jason Bourne. We all love Jason Bourne. I love Jason Bourne. Now we're to the survival mindset. This happens when the event begins. Now your mind goes from security to survival. You've got to be empowered. Utilize rational, not emotional thought. Focus on survival, not the fear of dying. You know what the worst thing that you can do when everything, am I done? Should I stop now? The biggest problem that people have is, imagine right now if somebody started shooting and you thought you were going to die. You would probably start seeing the pictures of your loved ones, the people that you love. The people that you love, and you're focusing on never seeing them again instead of not today. I see the pictures of my loved ones, and I'm going to see them tonight, whatever it takes. If I got to rip that guy apart, whatever it takes, I'm going home to the people I care about, right? Okay? That's what you got to focus on. Defer to your training, take command of your situation, and commit to survival without any other options. You're going to survive no matter what. I already talked about being proactively reactionary. Imagine a scenario before it happens, create a plan for that scenario, and then your plan will become second nature. Why do I know this is true? In times of stress, we default to our level of training. This has been proven thousands of times over decades. Somebody is sitting at a diner, they're at a restaurant, or they're at home, and they're eating dinner, and somebody at the table next to them goes, and what is this? The universal sign for I can't breathe? They're choking on something. And a guy stands up, and he walks over, and he does this. He does the Heimlich maneuver, and the food pops out, and the person could breathe, right? Or you're in a crowd, and somebody falls down, and they're on the ground, and you walk over, and you check, and there's no pulse. So what do? Tilt the head back, clear the airwave, do mouth-to-mouth and compressions. All of a sudden, they start breathing again. They come back to life. And they were asked, oh my God, you're a hero. Are you a doctor? Are you a nurse? Are you a paramedic? And the person goes, nope. I took CPR and first aid like 15 years ago. Haven't thought about it a day since. But thank goodness for the most powerful computer that we know of right here. This part back here is the subconscious, and everything you learn, unless you literally have a brain injury or something goes wrong with your brain, everything is stored back here because this is the biggest hard drive ever made. And then when you need it, it'll usually come back to the front, like that situation. okay? Because in times of crisis, we default to our level of training. But, folks, I'm going to ask you, please don't learn this or something similar and go, oh, it's okay, it'll be back here. Last story. In 2017, I got an email from a woman named Liz Moreno. Liz Moreno was at the Las Vegas Mandalay Massacre. And in her email, she said, hey, Mr. Julian, you probably don't remember me, but 2.5 years ago, you came and taught our all of the employees, my boss hired you, and you came and taught all of us. And it was a great presentation, fine, whatever, but I hadn't thought about it a day since until I was there and the shooting started at the Las Vegas Mandalay Massacre. And she said, I got down on the ground with my boyfriend, like everybody else in front of the stage who ended up getting shot. And she said, I immediately went, wait a minute, I've been taught. I know what to do. Okay, I know what to do. And she turned to her boyfriend and said, we got to go. And he said, no, we'll be safe sheltering in place. And she said, no, I'm leaving with or without you. So they jumped up, grabbed hands, and took off running. And I've got a picture in my presentation of the field where they were laying, covered in dead bodies. She said, all of a sudden, I went, wait a minute, I know what to do. Because in times of crisis, we default to our level of training. And that's why she survived. Now, real quick, and I'm done, so if you guys want to set up for your Q&A. Like I said, I've got the online program. I've got the in-person training. I've got over 130 instructors throughout the world. This is my book, which I brought a few copies of, and I'll be happy to give those out. And then this is the instructor certification course. We do it in person on the East Coast, and we do it virtually. I do it virtually on the West Coast. And I'll leave you with this before we do the Q&A. You cannot always stop bad things from happening. We know that, right? But you can be prepared when they do. Is it likely that we're going to experience an active shooter in our lifetime? No. But we're going to experience violence, whether it's directed at us or someone near us, that could hurt us. So shouldn't we know how to react? Shouldn't we know what to do? You can't always stop bad things from happening, but you can be prepared when they do. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mike. El formato, para los que nunca han venido a un summit, el formato como funciona o como lo hemos estado haciendo durante años es el presentador, en este caso Mike, hace su presentación de su tema, expone su tema como él quiera y después subimos a dos profesionales de la industria de seguridad en México para tratar de aterrizar el concepto a lo que nosotros vivimos en el día a día y que no se quede nada más como un concepto abierto. En este caso, hay dos instructores certificados por Alive, que son incluso los representantes de Alive en México y tienen el libro traducido, ya que se hizo el comercial que no debíamos, pero está el libro traducido al español, se está imprimiendo, y les voy a ceder la palabra a Carlos Seoane y a Gerardo del Lago, ambos ya reconocidos, creo que no necesitan. Si alguien necesita conocerlos, le preguntan a la salida porque los hemos visto en todos lados. Son grandes profesionales, muy respetados y han sido los pioneros. Fueron los primeros que empezaron en el tema de Active Shooter en México, desde con Miguel Ángel Beliera, que tienen todo un programa de entrenamiento, y ahora con Alive. Entonces, les cedo la palabra para que pregunten lo que quieran preguntar. Y ojo, si tienen alguna pregunta ustedes, qué bueno que me acordé, si tienen alguna pregunta ustedes que le quisieran hacer a Mike como resultado de la presentación que acaba de hacer ahorita o como resultado de las preguntas que van a hacer Carlos y Gerardo, en la app que tenemos, para los que no la han bajado, búsquenla en App Store o en Google Play, se llama CISA Digital. Busquen la app, se pueden meter al evento y ahí pueden hacer las preguntas, las cuales las va a ver Carlos en su teléfono o Gerardo en su teléfono y las va a poder hacer en el escenario de igual manera. Les dejo el micrófono.
Gracias, Pablo. We're going to shift back to English so Michael can easily understand. Is the translation ready over there? Yeah? Okay. Michael, thank you very much. Great presentation.
Thank you.
First question.
Yes.
Everybody sitting here is either a protector or run a protection program. So we saw this mentality that we have to take when the lightning strikes. But what about early warning systems? Can we detect, is there a profile that we can detect to be able to act before an active shooter starts, or we will know that we're in an issue where the first shoot when we start hearing the pop, pop, pop?
Well, obviously, the best way to survive an active shooter or active killer or any form of violence is to prevent it. So if there are somebody that exhibit the warning signs that I told you, that I showed you about, it's a matter of knowing what to look for. I mean, you may see them every day. People on the news go, yeah, that guy, killed 37 women and buried them in his backyard. I mean, he was such a nice guy. Who would have known? Well, with this type of violence and this type of assailants, these type of people, there are almost always blaring warning signs, posts on the internet, kids in school scribbling these very bloody scenes on their notebooks or making comments to other people. So the best thing to do is to avoid it. Now, you mean when it actually starts or beforehand?
Beforehand.
Beforehand is to know what to look for, to know when someone is in crisis emotionally, and then go say something to them if you know them well enough, or to their supervisor, or the HR manager, or a family member. It's to get involved before it gets to that point. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Now, talking about complementing what Gerardo just said, the Vegas shooter, the biggest event that has taken place in the US. Secret Service, FBI, went asking people around where this guy was, where the shooter was, did anybody see them? Has anybody spoken with him? Because there wasn't any trace. He didn't fit any profile. The word prevention for all the people that you're looking at is like religion. We're all thinking about prevention, prevention, prevention. And we get asked, how are we able to detect when it's coming around, when it's building, when it's growing? But then you see signs like Uvalde, even though the kid was only 18, or the Vegas shooter, that suddenly the monster arose from the middle of the volcano and started just crushing everybody. What would you say regarding that?
Well, I will say this, Stephen Paddock in Las Vegas was the exception to the rule. These, I told you, they're always telegraphed. People, if you know what to look for, the way they act, the things they say, the actions they take. Stephen Paddock in Las Vegas is the greatest mystery in this whole phenomenon for all of us. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody knew it was going to happen. He didn't exhibit any of this behavior. He was very secretive, and he had been planning it for a long time, even looking at other venues to possibly do it. And to this date, we still don't know his motive. We don't know why he did it. Now, for 3 days prior to it, he took a total of 23 either crates, duffel bags, or luggage, pieces of luggage full of guns and ammunition up to his room, and the bellboys helped him with the cart. So if somebody knew what to look for, if a bellman had known about this situation, and he's like this with a 75-pound luggage and put it on his cart, he might have been like, that's kind of weird. So now a lot of casino employees are getting training to spot stuff like that. So with that one, we honestly still don't know.
Let's discuss a little bit about response. Historically, what we see also in the movies is call SWAT, wait for the SWAT teams, get in, and get a response. How fast an active shooter incident happen? How much time do we have to react?
Well, we don't have any time to react. Once it happens, you have got to, and if you follow the 5 steps alive, the A is assess. And that is a 3 to 5 second process of going, what in the world is happening? Don't think about not seeing my children again. Focus on what I need to do. Take a deep breath to get some oxygen to your lungs and to your heart and to your organs because your adrenaline's going and you're starving for oxygen. And then focus on my plan. What can I do now? As far as response as a protector, Columbine changed everything. Columbine High School, Littleton, Colorado. It used to be law enforcement's tactical response to show up to a scene like this, create a perimeter, and stand back and wait for SWAT, or maybe hostage negotiators. Because it took 3 hours and 50 minutes for law enforcement to enter and clear that school, people bled out, died. The killers, they killed themselves hours ago. Because of that, we now know that you, as a protector, if you decide to be that person, as a protector, you need to get your principal off the X, okay? We know that. But if for some reason you decide it's your job to be a sheepdog, as Dave Grossman would say, then you have got to do it immediately. Because this is what's going to happen. The active shooter's, he wants to do what? Kill as many people possible, short amount of time as possible. He knows law enforcement's coming. Oftentimes, just hearing the sirens of approaching law enforcement, they will kill themselves because they don't want to be taken into custody and they don't want to be killed by somebody else. They lose power and control, right? As protectors, anybody that's going to do this, as soon as we engage them, they do what? They stop trying to shoot innocent people. Hopefully they do this, but if they don't do this, they might shoot at us, or they might take off and try and get away. But regardless, we have got to engage immediately because that's going to get them to stop trying to shoot and kill innocent people.
Now, Mike, when we were with you training in the US, you were very emphatic regarding ALIVE, the acronym. The V stands for violence, and you were quite passionate talking about violence. Again, if you talk to all our friends here regarding defending, using violence to defend yourself or to defend someone, but in the school ambience, this I just downloaded some reunification process stuff from the Idaho Office of School Security and Safety, and their protocol says move, secure, defend. And the videos that you see from many universities, it says run, hide, defend. They are quite careful of using the word violence because when you teach it, it's basically, well, kill the guy. Kill the guy in order to stop the guy. So to talk to young folks, college, high school, it's defend, it's much softer. What do you think about it?
Yeah. So I have some very, very strong opinions on this, and some of you may not like it, but that's okay. The problem is, well, I drive at home. I use the word violence because, and by the way, I say don't react emotionally until it's time to commit violence. And what emotion do you think I want you to have when it's time to commit violence? Anger. Rage. Rage, guys and gals. You need rage. I want you, if it comes down to you and that person, I want you to completely lose your mind, go crazy, and if it takes you scratching the skin off their face with your fingernails, fine, do it. Because it comes down to a good, innocent, sweet person with a loving family going home to their family, or this person. And I don't care about them anymore, okay? If they wanted to take my life, their rights mean nothing. Now, I've got clients or potential clients in the Silicon Valley. And in the Silicon Valley, it's very lovey and touchy and feely and don't hurt anybody and, unicorns and rainbows and the world is wonderful. Except the world isn't wonderful. And I've been told we don't accept violence in our culture, in our company culture. And my response is what? What if somebody from outside your company culture brings violence to your doorstep? Are you going to be prepared to survive? Are you going to be ready to do what's necessary? So I teach violence. Now understand, run, hide, fight, leave, impede violence. We know from children, if we get scared, we know how to run away. That's instinctive. If we get scared, we know how to hide. We've done it since we were kids playing hide and seek. But what many people are not comfortable with, and in fact, instinctively, we're probably not violent people. We learn violence. A lot of people are uncomfortable with violence. So I want to make them comfortable with it because I want them to be prepared to use violence in their favor against somebody that's trying to kill them. So yeah, I'm not always real popular with I call them snowflakes, the people that just want everybody to love everybody and pretend violence doesn't exist. I'm not very politically correct, especially in California. But the bottom line, people, and your insecurity, if somebody brings violence to your doorstep, you may have to 1, 2, 3 up them with more extreme violence to survive that situation. And I'm just fine with that because I would gladly take anybody out to protect anyone in this room if they're going to try and hurt you because they have no right to do that. So as far as I'm concerned, I'll use violence, I'll fight, I'll do whatever I need to do.
Let me put that on a scenario. The son of the boss of one of these guys is at school. The team of these guys have their protectors at the school as a protective detail. Shoots start sounding on the school. What is the role? To get my protectee out of harm, or to go in and stop the killing?
That's a great dilemma. Well, I would be curious to know what your answer is. I think I know. If we are being paid to protect somebody, we are being compensated for our time and our skill and our experience and our training to protect that person by getting them off the X. We have got to get them out of danger. Now, if we can do that, if we've got a team, if I've got the kid, the son, and I got into a vehicle and we're on our way, and there's two other guys part of that protective detail that are still there, that is their decision. And here's the thing. I tell everybody in my program, it is not my job to tell you need to be a hero. I'm not here to convince you that you're supposed to be a sheepdog in every situation. I'm here to tell you, if you've got a family at home, it's your job to get home to them, okay? If you make a decision to try and help other people get home to their families, that's a personal decision that only you can make. Unless, if you're a paid law enforcement officer, if you're a paid protector, it's kind of your job. You've said, I've sworn to do this, or I said, I will take your money to protect you and your family. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to how you react. And I promise you, there's some protectors, maybe even in this room, that when the poo-poo hits the oscillator, they're going to save their own tail and not worry about their principal. I'd like to think that's not true, but it's true. Most of us are conditioned to know it's our job to help and save other people, so that's what we would do. But at the end of the day, if you've got a family to go home to, that's something to consider.
Let me add to that, just as a fact that we have in Mexico, that if we go back to Virginia Tech, where many universities changed from non-sworn officers to sworn officers. For those of you who haven't heard this, in the US, a sworn officer is the one who carries a gun. A non-sworn officer used to be the campus police who had no guns with them. So many universities after Virginia Tech changed to sworn officers. In Mexico, we don't even have campus police. So the response time is not even the police, because our police is not trained to respond to an active shooter, because we don't have it that often.
Yet.
So that creates a major dilemma in terms of if we don't do something, the way these incidents will end, it will be either the guy ran out of ammo, the guy took his life, or got bored and flee.
Right.
But if we don't respond, that will be the end. I mean, as you show on the video, that kid could have killed half of the.
If he had if he had enough ammunition, he could have killed everybody in there,
Yeah.
because they froze. What happens if every one of them would have just started rushing out? They would have knocked him down. He wouldn't have been a threat anymore.
So let me go back to that. Traditionally, what do we tell the kids? Get below.
Get under your desks, because that magic desk will save you. If a meteor is coming down on top of your building, that magic desk will save you. But you can be seen from 360 degrees, so you're not safe.
Mike, trying to bring what you do to Mexico. Gerardo and myself, we went to Dallas last summer for again, training, schools, and everybody that we were able to see and to talk to, they said it's a matter of when it's coming, the next big shooting, the next mass shooter or the next active shooter thing, because this is here to stay. We were talking yesterday while I picked you up at the airport, that in Mexico we have about a little bit less than 80 killings per month all around the country, mostly by gunfire.
Per day.
Narco-related.
8 killings per day.
No, 80, yeah, sorry, 80 per day.
Yeah, per day, not months.
A little bit less than 80 per day.
Yeah.
Right now, this month, it's about 77 per day. So it's narco-related, it's organized crime-related. Oh, it's the bad guys fighting among each other, let them kill. But suddenly you say, okay, we're looking for the people in this table, but the 5 tables around them get shot also.
Yeah.
So how would you, I mean, I'm not taking you and bringing you to Mexico, but how would you apply your knowledge or what has been developed in the US for the last 2.5 decades to respond to an active shooter scenario when we were talking yesterday and I told you 4 or 5 guys just go into a place, start shooting, and then you have 150 shells
Sure.
out on the floor,
Sure.
and they just leave, and that is it. It's
Yeah.
how do we bring that knowledge?
Okay, well, like I said, you may not be the intended target, but you may end up being a victim anyway, collateral damage. The problem, like I said, is, and I've seen this in videos and all my research, when the shooting starts, if you have not trained your brain, see what I preach, what my program is so important, how it's so different. I teach equal parts of method, which is run, hide, fight, and mindset. Because you could run, hide, fight all day long, but if your brain locks up and doesn't tell your feet to run, it's not going to do you any good. The bottom line is you have got to be mentally prepared as soon as that first shot is fired to take action. But most people are stunned, they're in shock, they freeze, they become afraid, they don't want to move. We cannot do that. We have got to move forward, even if it's going backwards. We have got to take action. We cannot freeze. If you allow yourself to be paralyzed from fear, you will most likely become dead. Just like those people in the mosque, just like in several other instances where people just got scared, those kids, they froze, they got into a ball, and if that guy had enough ammunition, he just would have gone and started executing everyone by doing headshots. We cannot do that. You've got to take action.
Okay, we're almost out of time, but you said in the presentation that Columbine changed everything in the U.S. What does it have to happen in a country like Mexico or Colombia or Brazil or Chile to get this process of active shooters on the radar, on the risk map, on the guys who are sitting right here?
Well, unfortunately, because of how humans are, and also finances, they're probably not going to start teaching active shooter survival in schools until active shooters in schools becomes a problem. Right now, it's not a problem. It has happened, but it's not out there. It doesn't have a public outcry and outrage, right? So are schools going to pay people like us to come teach their teachers or even their students how to survive an active shooter? Probably not, because money's tight. They're going to allocate it to books and to teachers and to facilities. So, but I will tell you right now, gun violence in Mexico is a real problem. Active shooter gun violence is not a problem yet. And unfortunately, I will tell you that I think at some point in the next 10 years it will be. Just like this kid on the screen, okay? What told him to do this? Where did it go into the mind? And the thing about active shooter mentality, everybody here, are you familiar with the riot mentality? A riot mentality is a bunch of people are together and they're going, hell no, we won't go, or we're upset about with this, or we're upset about that. And then all of a sudden somebody decides to throw a bottle at the police or at the other side or whatever. Now, none of these people would have been the first guy to do that. But one guy did. And then everybody that wouldn't have been the first, but might have been the second, they're like, yeah. And they start throwing bottles. And then the person that would never have been first or second, they're like, yeah. And pretty soon, everybody's starting a riot, everybody's throwing bottles. It's a riot mentality. It's just spread out over a long time. Columbine. Okay, we had active killers in the United States in the past, but very few and very far between. Columbine set off a wave, the riot mentality. So all these kids that never would have been the first guy, never even thought about it. But now these guys did it. Now they've got a blueprint. Now they've got a roadmap. Hey, look what happened. They're famous. Their pictures and their names are posted everywhere. The news wants to know what they had for breakfast. They interview all their family members. They're famous. They're somebody. And here I am feeling like I'm nobody. I get picked on. I get bullied. I get beat up. And those guys are feared because they went and they killed a bunch of people. So it's going to start happening. It's a riot mentality, and it's going to snowball, I believe.
Let me tell you something that you might not know, and maybe some of the people here doesn't know also. The other big incidents in Mexico, another kid who shot in school in Torreon,
11-year-old, right?
he went out into the bathroom and came out with a T-shirt that you might recognize. It said natural selection.
It's what?
It said natural selection.
Natural
It's
selection.
the same T-shirt that one of the Columbine shooters
Yeah.
were using. So this guy made a copycat of an incident that happened 7 years before he even was born.
Yeah.
Because Columbine was already, it's 20 years from now.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. You know, we have to move on. Thank you very much. For those who want to have a immediate or direct talk with Michael, he's going to be here for the day. So thank you very much for coming to Mexico.
Let's get a group picture with everybody. Come on in here. I want to get a picture with you guys. Everybody say hi. I'm going to post this all over social media. Awesome. Sorry. We'll do another one. Okay, let's get them. That's awesome. Guys, thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate
Thank you very
it.
much.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Always a pleasure, buddy. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Julian.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for sharing with us your knowledge and your experience. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Por favor, would you please wait?
Of course. Sorry.
Le pido a nuestra presidenta, licenciada Midori Llanes, CPP, que nos acompañe a entregar el reconocimiento a Julian por su participación.
Michael, thank you. We really appreciate your presence in our breakfast and your wisdom and knowledge about this important matter related with avoid the violence and what we must to know that is ones that run and hide. Thank you very much
Thank you.
to be here.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that.
And now, CISA from EP Summit will appreciate your presence here.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. All this beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Can I go?
Thanks again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks again.